Hello, everyone. My name is Lynn McEntee. I'm your humble host for Spotlight on Youth Matters, hosted by Youth for Change Canada. And thank you to Youth for Change for allowing us to be here. Before we get started, I'm just going to do a land acknowledgement to acknowledge the place that we're on today. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we're on today. While we meet on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home, wherever we are today. So thank you for allowing us to be here, and thank you to Youth for Change Canada for creating this safe space, a platform for youth to discuss matters of the heart and being our authentic self, because that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about self-esteem and being our authentic self. We have a wonderful guest. I'm really excited. Had great conversation before we started today. So for anybody that's going to be tuning in, our listeners and viewers, I am really excited to have our guest Nakisha here. I'm going to do a little bit of bio read, and then we'll jump into the conversation, folks. Okay, so Nakisha Straker is a celebrity hairstylist and texture expert who is well sought after for her skills, techniques, and flair. She is the hair guru for high-profile celebrities and clients like ETalk's co-anchor Tyrone Edwards, R&B Singer Miguel, rapper Waka Flocka, director Randall Thorne, and Raptors ex-Raptors player Chris Bosh. Nakisha has been creating fashion-forward, chic individual styles for more than 15 years and continues to reinvent and influence the beauty industry. And in addition, Nakisha's expertise and work has been featured in Fashion Magazine, Sway Magazine, and Afro Caribbean Magazine over the years. Straker's chic boutique studio is described as a happy place for many of her clients because of the relaxing, welcoming, good vibes environment that she creates and caters to each individual needs. And that was my draw to have Nakisha here today to talk about self-esteem and how important that is. So welcome to all of our panelists that are here today, our guests. Welcome to Nakisha. Hi, Nakisha.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Of course, for sure. And we have Ifte who's there. Hi, Ifte. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course.
Nakisha.
Hi, Ifte. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And we have Prachi, who is also joining us today for the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Thanks, Nakisha. Hi, Ifte. It's nice to meet you. I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So we're talking about self-esteem, and I don't know if we want to just open up the floor to the conversation on what we define as self-esteem, but some of the things actually I wanted to just sort of highlight is, pardon me, just how we feel about ourselves. I think it comes in various packages, if you will, and it can start very early on from birth, and we carry that with us throughout our lives. So I wondered if maybe, Nakisha, you want to jump in right away. In between there, I might mention a little bit about Youth for Change Canada and what we do. Before we start with you, be sure to follow us on social media, give us a like, and any suggestions you have for any programming, let us know, and we'll see what we can do for you. All right, Nakisha. So today we're talking about self-esteem, and I'm sure you probably know a lot about that in terms of your industry, but also for you as an individual throughout your life.
Yes, I do. So I definitely think like the word self, a lot of people could interpret it in many different ways. But for me, self begins with, I guess, family, because, like identifying oneself as whatever characteristics and individuality to me begins at home. So, and then oftentimes we are brought up in different environments where, there's sometimes trauma, or there's certain types of conflicts, or certain things that sometimes are roadblocks in us identifying what true self is. So it's very important to me that we understand our triggers and what self really means to us. So with that being said, as a hairstylist, I know that I deal with a lot of people on an individual level, and everybody characterizes self in their own individual way. And having a positive outlook is very detrimental to the way a person sees themselves and the world. So I always try to encourage every individual to always be happy within themselves first, and to love oneself first before you can love another person and love, their fellow neighbors and their friends. So I believe once you have really great self-esteem, no one can tell you who you are, who you're not, because you believe within yourself who you are. So that's kind of like my definition of self-esteem. And I believe that once you understand like who you are as a person and as an individual, you can overcome many things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Very much so. And I wondered if we could have some of our guests pipe in as well in terms of what their feelings are. Ifte, would you mind if I start with you and your thoughts on self-esteem and what that means to you as a young person? I was just kind of going over it with some, and self-confidence and feelings of security, identity and self-belonging, all of the things Nakisha was talking about, and feelings of competence. And a lot of things can play into a factor, whether, a disability, socioeconomic background, discrimination, all of those things come into play. And when you mentioned family, that really spoke to my heart, because that truly is the foundation of everything, isn't it?
It is.
Right.
The nature nurture factor, right?
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Ifte? Did you want to have a moment to chat or?
Yeah, sure. So I absolutely agree with Nakisha. Just like what Nakisha said, that it starts from family. So we first started learning the values, the self-esteem, that moralities, the basic things that okay, it's good, it's right, it's wrong, whichever it's like. If we first start learning from our family, from our parents, and see, okay, this, for example, when babies start growing and they learning from their parents that okay, my parents is doing this, so this is right, and my parents is doing this, not like avoiding this, so this is not right, and I should avoid this. So it started from family, and over the period we learn values from our neighbors, from our surroundings, our friends, and then when we go outside, when we grow up and we go university, college, we learn from our like friends, and then when we join workforce, we learn from our colleagues and other employees. So yes, I absolutely agree what Nakisha said. It clearly starts from family. So like we can understand from the person that if that person has values or not by seeing how they grew up.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ifte. Thank you. Are we okay to jump over to you, Prachi? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ifte. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with Nakisha and Ifti too. So according to me, self-esteem is how we value and sort of perceive our own selves. So it's about how one of the values that we grow up with, and a lot of that also comes from families too. So I do definitely believe that our self-esteem is shaped a lot by what we tell ourselves and what others tell us about ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. And it comes in many different forms, right? At different stages in our lives. But we first started noticing it almost from birth, right? That affirmation,
Right.
Yeah.
Information.
Yeah, for sure. Back to you, Nakisha. Anything you wanted to reach into there?
I mean, I believe that we are, I believe that we are perfectly made, but we live in an imperfect world. And sometimes we forget who we are in our authentic self. And I believe that I'm a spiritual person, and I believe that the spirit knows the truth. And sometimes outside mechanisms and other things could sometimes damper our spirits and make us believe things that are not us. And sometimes we believe that because we may be hurt, or we may be sad, or we might have all of the insecurities that wants us to believe that we are not perfect, but the spirit knows truth. So sometimes, like, people grow up in certain situations where they don't have family and they don't have that moral and morality and the values being instilled in them, but somehow they still can grow up to be very strong individuals and have really good self-esteem, or they learn it like FD said, they learn it along the way through colleagues, through friends, through neighbors. And I want to tell the youths and I want to tell people that sometimes you have to quiet the noise of the outside and tune into the inside, because the inside of you knows the truth of who you are. And we are not, there's only one Nakisha, there's only one FD, there's only one you. So why do we always try to let the bad influence us from knowing that truth and walking in our truth? And, you know, like today I decided, hey, I'm going to grab this green shirt. I don't care if anybody likes the green shirt, but I look good in green because I know that about myself, right? So sometimes we just have to like quiet the noise and just stand in our truth and be comfortable with who we are. And I always say, even to my clients, I'm like, we all have flaws. We're not perfect. You know, I might have brown eyes, you might have blue eyes, you might have black hair, brown hair, whatever the case is. But however you feel on the inside is what will be portrayed on the outside. So work on the things that you are not perfect in. And we live in a time where everything could be fixed. Everything could be fixed. You know, you can draw in your eyebrows. My eyebrows are really light. You can't really. I have to draw my eyebrows in all the time. But I'm not going to make myself lesser of an individual because of that. You know, I just work with what I have, and I accentuate on the good parts of me, and I work on the parts that I think needs to be worked on. You know, so self-esteem for me and body image and all these things, it's an individual being comfortable within their self and quieting the noise around us so that we can shine and be the perfect individuals that God created us to be.
I love, that's beautiful. It really is. When you think about that, right? It is quiet the noise and allow yourself to be your authentic self.
That's it.
Yeah, because if it's coming at us, that negativity, you know, it's not allowing us to be open or step outside the box, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And not only that, it sometimes stops us from receiving the different types of blessings and the different types of things that we want and what we crave for initially, you know, because it's all, to me, it's all noise. You know, we are brought here to just have love and peace and joy and happiness and all these things that are so free, you know. So to me, it's just quieting the noise and really tuning into what makes you an individual and makes you happy. And believe it or not, when you're your authentic self and when you're walking in your truth, other people can feel it and sense it. And they too will appreciate it. And you don't even know how much power you're giving to them to walk in their truth also.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome. Ifti, did you want to jump in here to that point?
Yeah, sure. I like the point that Nakisha said, that the uniqueness. There is only one Nakisha, there is only one Ifti, there is only one Lean and Prati here. So why would we like have to hide ourselves, and why can't we embrace our individuality, our uniqueness, and show the world that, okay, see, this is Ifti and this is how does my body works, and okay, this is me, this is my identity. And everybody should accept this individuality and not afraid of showing their personality. And that actually helps to be more confident and creates and special space in outer world, like when we present ourselves that way in front of others.
Thank you. That's awesome. All right, Prachi, what do you think? Keep the ball rolling here. Oh, just a sound thing. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I think that comparing yourself with someone else sort of robs you of your uniqueness, as each of us are mentioning here right now. And I think, yeah, there are differences definitely, but these differences are beautiful and these need to be embraced rather than feeling low about one's own self just by comparing yourself with someone who you see on social media, because all of this affects the self-esteem too. So I think that it's very important to circle back to what you hold value for and guide your life, sort of forming that foundation of what are those things which are important to you, what are those goals that you want to aim for. I think that is something that enhances your own capacity to believe in yourself, which in turn also definitely impacts your self-esteem, how you view yourself.
And that speaks to your core then, right? You're developing your core, and therefore the outside stimulus is just the stimulus, the outside. Right? Yeah, no, for sure. That's awesome. Thank you. Actually, I was just going to say, Prachi, so you deal with that in your work also, right? In terms of, working in psychiatry and such as well. So that's why I'm glad that you're here today and just to be a part of this evolving conversation. And in Nakisha's work, she sees that every day as well, too. And when you started, Nakisha, into this field that you're working in now, how important was that to you? And how did you recognize that self-esteem correlates with your passion?
Well, for me, long story short, I have been doing hair since I was 8 years old, but I never wanted to be a hairstylist.
Oh, okay.
I was actually studying to be a nurse, a registered nurse. And no matter how much I actually was very shy. I never used to like to speak to people because I grew up, it's 5 siblings, it's 5 of us. I'm the second of 5 kids. And I grew up in the island of Trinidad and Tobago, where colonialism is still alive and well today. And I grew up in a very strict Catholic household where, my grandmother used to say, girls are supposed to be seen and not heard. And, I'm pretty like curvy and a little bit voluptuous. So it was always to like pipe down, like, don't show yourself, don't show your curves, those type of stuff. So growing up, I won't really say I had the highest self-esteem, but there came a point in my life where I looked around and I didn't look like anybody else, and I didn't do things like everybody else, and I didn't think like everybody else. My brothers and sisters were really academically strong, and I had to really put a lot of effort into my studies for me to, like ace my schoolwork and stuff. But creativity was always there for me. And when I actually, it came a time where I actually had to say within myself that, this is who I am. This is what I like to do. This is what I'm great at doing. And this is just what it is. And from the time that I affirmed that within myself, because sometimes, as I say, you can hear it from everybody else, but if you don't believe it within yourself, it doesn't really match up to anything, So once I started believing within myself that I'm going to be the best hairstylist, I'm going to learn how to do all different hair textures, I'm going to try to be more assertive, I'm going to work on the things that I am not confident in, and I'm going to show up for myself. That's when things started falling into place and people started appreciating me as my authentic self, because ultimately I appreciated myself. So it ultimately really started with me, right? Wow. And for everybody who didn't believe and doubted, once they saw that power within myself, they actually felt it and believed it too, right? So the funny thing is, when I started doing hair in Toronto, I actually had locks. My locks were like to really, really long locks, natural. It's a hairstyle where curly hair is locked up and it looks like locks. And I worked in a lot of high-end salons downtown Toronto and Mississauga. And oftentimes the clients who sat in my chair would doubt that I could complete the task because of how I looked.
Wow.
And I knew what I was capable of, but at the end of the day, I still had a task to complete to prove to them. And I picked up something a long time ago that said, I'm only good as my last client, right? So I would sit the client in the chair, I would do my task, I'll do a blow dry. And funny enough, when I'm finished, the clients often said, wow, you did such a good job. Can you do my mom? Can you do my sister? Can you do this one? So it proved to me that even though I may look a certain way or carry myself look a certain way, my skills, my confidence, and my truth will always override what anybody says or thinks about me. So it took me a while to really find my place in the hair industry, even though it's a very creative, individual industry. They still, like any other businesses or any other jobs, had the discriminations tied to them that sometimes would make you feel like, and at that point of time, I said to myself, I actually called my dad and I said, Dad, I really want to take my career really seriously. These people are not taking me seriously. So I'm going to cut my locks. Okay?
Yeah.
I cut my locks off and I changed the way I did. I changed the way I looked in certain aspects. And believe it or not, I was received differently. Right? But for me, it didn't change how I felt about myself. It's just game plan to me. It was a game plan because there was a goal that I needed to attain, and I'm going to get to that goal any means necessary, right? And it's pretty shallow if you think about it, but at the end of the day, it didn't really dampen me as who I am. It just made me recognize my power of who I am.
Oh,
right?
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little more to that? Recognize your power. Yeah.
So I think I'm still a natural girl.
Yeah.
I think I'm still very like down to earth and all these, like I'm still me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I can sit in any environment. I could be the blonde hair girl if you wanted me to. I could be, you know what I mean? I could act the part because unfortunately, that's how the world is. The world, they put you in different boxes. You know what I mean? But even in the boxes that they placed me in, I was still myself. I still spoke up on situations and problems that bothered me, or any injustice that I see or I sense. I still stood in my truth, but it's funny because now me and my clients, we laugh and I'm like, guys, I'm going to grow back my locks now. And they would say to me, well, now you can, because I no longer had to prove to anybody who I am. And it's kind of sad in a sense because we should not have to do those things. We shouldn't have to change our skin color, our eye color, our hair color. We shouldn't have to change the way we speak or anything to be accepted. But most times we have to. You know what I mean? And it really it used to make me really sad sometimes when I did work in other salons and I had to face those type of things. My one experience that really it kind of like bothered me for the longest time, and it took a little while for me to let go, was I was apprenticing at a salon in Mississauga, a big salon in the mall, and the manager hired me. He loved my work. But I also grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Like my life is so dynamic and so diverse in the sense that, so I told you guys I'm the second of 5 kids. My mom actually has vitiligo. So my mom actually looks just like you, Lynn.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I have a nephew that has that actually. Yes, as well.
Like my mom's completely. So people always thought we were either adopted or people would think my mom was German or Jewish or something like that.
Interesting.
So from a child, especially growing up in the Caribbean and having this diversity within my family, I was always searching for my place, like to belong, because you feel a certain way, but when you look around, everything's so different. And then you had that outside noises of people asking if you're adopted or asking, is that your mom, and all these type of things. And to me, I just saw my mom. That was my mom. That's all I knew, right? So when going back to the working in the hair salon, I had my locks. I came to Canada in 2007. I started working in a salon, and one day they assigned me to work with a colorist. And when they assigned me to work with a colorist, that was my job, to work with her. Don't waver from her, work with her. So after she's finished every client, I had to walk her to the front and cash the client out and walk back to help the stylist again. So while I was walking back, this stylist named John asked me for help. So I politely said to him, I can't help you right now. I'm assigned to a stylist. When I do have free time, I will help. I went about my day. The evening, the manager called me and asked me if John asked me for help. So I said, yeah, John asked me for help, and I couldn't help him because I was assigned to the stylist. I don't want to get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So the manager said to me, you know who that John is? John is the owner of the salon. So I was like, whoop-de-doo. Well, great. Nice to meet John. Cool. So days went by, and I didn't even know that John had a vendetta out for me.
Oh.
I was shampooing a client later on in the back sink. Back then the salons were huge. You remember they had like shampoo area, resting area, this area, that area. So while I'm waiting for her color to process, I'm lightly tapping on the sink. You can hear me. I'm lightly tapping on the sink, right? John passes by. So me as an employee is now trying to give him the most respect I can. So I said, hi, John. And I just waved. And he recognized me. He came to me and he said, you see this area, the lights are dimmed. You shouldn't be banging on the sink. I wasn't banging, but whatever. I said, okay, John, no problem. I'm sorry. He goes about his business. I finish the client. I walk her to the front. As I'm walking to the front, a couple stylists stopped me. These are the senior stylists. They stopped me and said, were you the one beating bongos at the sink?
Oh, interpretation.
And so I'm like, because I have locks and I'm a Caribbean girl, I'm beating bongos.
Wow. Wow.
You know,
That's a story.
It was eye-opening for me because you have
Yeah.
to remember, I'm a Caribbean girl, grew up in Trinidad, where I see everybody like myself. And I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, where locks were glorified. People were in their blackness or whatever their culture. And then I came to Canada, and it wasn't really, back then it wasn't really, it was sparse. It wasn't really a lot like it is today. And I felt really, after that day, going into that salon made me feel so small because I didn't look like everybody else. Even though I was super talented, that didn't matter because of how I looked, or, you know, so eventually I left because I'm like, you know what? I've been through too much. My ancestors been through too much. My parents been through too much for me to be here. I'm still here. So I am not going to continually have people treat me however they want to treat me based on the way I look. Right? So that was a very empowering moment for me when I actually walked in the office, folded my cape, and was like, I'm done. Mind you, I didn't even know how I was paying my rent. I didn't know any of these things, but I showed up for Nakisha. And I stood up for Nakisha. And I think for me, that was a pivotal point in my career where I stood up for myself and I didn't let outside factors determine what type of person I am, what kind of creative I am, what I'm going to do in the industry. And yeah, so for me, it's just like the world will throw so many different arrows at you. They will try to change your course of your destiny, your purpose. But once you stand 10 toes down and you say, you know what, I am going to get what I need to get no matter what, then the world is yours. The world is your oyster. So that's why I say there's so many different factors to factor in why, for me today, I am who I am. I would change my hair color every week. I would put on bright colors because I'm going to show up and I'm going to make you uncomfortable because you have to fix yourself, because I'm already fixing myself. And fixing myself doesn't mean that I'm perfect, but it means that I'm okay with the parts of me that is not perfect, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
if I can show up and be perfect and be myself, so should you. You know what I mean? And that's it.
Well, that's a great story. Thank you for being courageous, I guess, to share that and just putting it out there for somebody else experiencing the same thing, right?
Right.
My mom had black hair and brown eyes, and I always wanted to have black hair and brown eyes. And I was born in Scotland, but I've been here all my life. But people would often ask my mom, where are you from? And la 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 la, and et cetera, et cetera. But constant, and it's interesting why people need to know that.
Right.
Yeah. To sort of validate their own perceptions of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure.
People want to put you in a box, right? They want to say, okay, so you're this, so this is what this looks like. But we live in a world that's so diverse. You would be so shocked to know, like, wow, this person is from Ireland or Scotland, or I have clients of all different backgrounds. And, I have clients who are like completely like from Italian families or African families and stuff, and you would be so shocked to see the diversity and the hair textures and the skin tones and all these kind of stuff. And I feel like we should just appreciate the diversity, just like I believe, like in a field of dandelions, every dandelion has a different shape and form and different leaves and stuff like that, and they still stand tall and they still try to reach to the sun, right?
Wow.
So we as individuals, we have to just stand tall and reach to the sun, because I am who I am and you are who you are. And there's things in me that I may lack that you have, and I should be able to appreciate it in you. Like, wow, Lynn, you have beautiful blue eyes. Like, I love your bangs. And I'm never ashamed of giving compliments.
Yeah.
I never. And even when people ask me like, oh, Nakisha, I like this, I tell them where I buy it. I don't keep that information, because I'm inspiring somebody. I'm making somebody think about things that they have never thought about, or look a certain way that they've never thought they would look like. I change people's look every single day. I sometimes look at my clients and be like, you will look nice with a bob. And they'll be like, no, they'll give me 5 years of fighting of no bob. And then one day they'll be like, okay, I'm going to try the bob, But that's what I'm one person who's believing in them. They're not hearing it from other people. And because I believe in them, they will ultimately start believing more into themselves.
Yeah.
So I appreciate everybody in every walks of life. People usually tell me that I'm too caring, or I'm really not that judgmental. Because we all are human beings. We all are actually spiritual beings having a human experience. So why don't we just experience it? You know what I mean? You can't have everything I have. I can't have everything you have. But if I have some, I'm okay with sharing with you. So we just have to start with loving ourselves and believing in ourselves and knowing that we're perfect, no matter what.
Knowing that we're perfect, yeah, for sure. Ifte, did you want to jump into the conversation, and then Prachi, and then we'll kind of double back to Nakisha, give her a moment to catch her breath there.
Yeah, sure. I have a question. Like, I was mesmerized by the thoughts Nakisha shared, that okay, she was very brave to confront that situation, and she didn't hide her identity, and she is proud of how she is. So that's why she left. I mean, she didn't accept that person, how he treated her. So I have a quick question to Nakisha, that now that you are you evolved and you are better than how you were previously. Like you are more like established and you are more like famous. So so do you think that, or like have you asked or have you meet that person who humiliated you, or he didn't give you proper respect? So like any changes that
I for me, anytime I leave a situation that usually saddens me, I pray for the person and I leave it. I leave it because for me, I don't know him personally, but I could be a little cocky sometimes, and I always say to them, "You're gonna read about me. You're gonna see me on the television. You're gonna drive by my shop. You're gonna read me in a magazine. Somebody's gonna tell you about me." That's for me is the best revenge, and that's the best like comfort for me because the world is a small place.
Yeah.
And Canada is literally 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Toronto especially.
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody knows somebody that you know, right? So, and now when I pass by when I go to the mall where the salon is not there anymore. It's a small salon now. It's
Wow.
small,
Yeah.
right? And when I pass by now and I see the people working, they look like me. They do look like me now. Because the thing about it is our world is so, as I keep saying, it's so diverse and it's so mixed. There people will no longer will be able to put anybody in boxes because there'll be too many boxes.
Yes.
Too many. So now people will more go by what you're good at, what's your strengths, what do you bring to the table and stuff like that. So he's not the only ex-boss that spoke down to me. My last boss, I gave him 6 years of my life. And at the ending, he said to me, if my life don't end up the way I want, it's because of my poor decisions. And I looked at him and I said, oh. I really had more to say, but all I said was, oh. Because you know what? Energy is a big thing. And I'm not here in this world to fight and to antagonize and to hold grudges and malice. I don't have the energy for that. For me, I leave people with their words and their thoughts and I let them be. Because as I say, you're going to read about me, you're going to hear about me, and that's it. And then you will, I hope and I pray that at that point, that will be a humbling moment for them where they will check themselves, so, and maybe I pray that they wouldn't be so judgmental or, quick to discriminate or not value somebody who's trying to bring something to their team.
That answer your question, Ifte?
Yeah, just what people say, success is the best revenge. Like, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Thanks for replying.
No problem.
Your footprint is a different angle, right? You're leaving your footprint as a different angle. Very nice, very positive. Yeah, turning it around to a positive.
Always.
Yeah, no, that's a great energy for sure.
It's so easy to be negative, Negativity is so easy to be. Positivity, it actually is within. It stems from within. Because you put on the news, it's negativity. You read the newspapers, it's negativity. You scroll Instagram, is negativity. People spew so much negativity. When you could just say, wow, Lynn, I love your lipstick. I love your eyes, everything. Like, it's so much easier to be pleasant, So I try, I'm not perfect, but I try really hard to always see myself in people.
And very much so. No, that's how I roll. Actually, it's the only way I roll, really. It's shining light on others. And I think for me, that's very empowering. It's unlocking that potential and shining light on their potential that maybe perhaps they may not have an opportunity to show in another way. Before we jump over to Prachi on that one, I'm just reminding everyone that we are here for Spotlight on Youth Matters. Thank you to Youth for Change Canada for allowing us to be here. Youth for Change is dedicated to improving the quality of life for youth by enriching with learning activities that are sustainable and networking, team building skills, character building, mind, body, and balance, and communication skills. We're about educating and promoting cultural exchanges as well between businesses and community youth members. Prachi, did you want to jump into that part of the conversation?
Firstly, I love the story that you shared, Nakisha, and I am so happy that you are able to get out of all those noisy situations. You were able to filter all the noise out and listen to your own self and do what you felt you needed to do the most. So that was really, really empowering. I also like how you mentioned about, of course, and I also like how you mentioned about the garden. It's like, if all as creatures, yes, spiritual beings and in the human form, and all of us have those differences, but these are to be appreciated. And I mean, it would be best if we could reach that spot where each of us could find that beauty in each of us, right? I really love that. And it's true that the more you seek positivity, not only in yourself, but in others too, you start appreciating yourself and others as much as well.
100%.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Prachi's just starting off for a minute. Her screen is glitching a little bit, so I'll let her kind of connect in again. And that is really what it's all about. It's lifting each other up and empowering each other. And I know myself working with international students and such, and working with survivors of trauma and anti-racist education and such. That's how I roll. And it's interesting to see what you're talking about. How the landscape is not changing. I get it is changing, but it's always been there. Right. But now it's just unraveling and shining light for other people that may have not experienced those experiences before. So it's awesome. It's awesome to hear this positivity in this conversation. Ifti, well, Prachi is there. Is there any questions right now for Nakisha? I was going to let her roll into her just her day-to-day work that she does with people and empowering people when they come to see her. It's broad, I'm sure, but if you could maybe, Ifti, did you want us to just kind of go right into Nakisha? Yeah. Or is it?
Yeah, like during your, like, you have a career so far, like a long career. So like, can you remember any special incident that happened with you that makes you happy, that makes you proud, and that made you, okay, I have contributed someone's life, and like anything that any compliments that you got, or any incident that happened with any other person and that they shared with you, and you feel that, okay, because of my one conversation with that person, it made really difference to her, like you really proud of yourself inside.
Sure. Thanks for the question, FT. So, as I mentioned before, I never wanted to be a hairstylist. And once I dived into my role as a hairstylist, because that's my role. I'm Nakisha Straker, but that's my role. So I always try to differentiate the two. When I'm outside, I'm Nakisha. When I'm in the salon, I'm Nakisha, she been here, or Nikki. Everybody knows me as Nikki.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
I have clients from all walks of life. All people come from Scarborough, Ajax, Kitchener, all these different communities for me to do their hair. And I think what keeps me going on a day-to-day basis is knowing that I bring and I pour in so much love and vibes and energy into my clients, who oftentimes are dealing with seasonal depression, divorce, abuse. I find myself more and more becoming the gatekeeper of my community in those aspects, because we live in a country where most of the demographics are immigrants, and everybody's still trying to find their place in the world. And most of the times, I too am going through so many situations, so many family problems and stuff like that, but I never really show it. or I show up and I smile and I do what I have to do. And I think just that perseverance is what draws people towards me. And the more and more I get really more in depth into my career and what I do, I realize most of the experience that I endure is setting me up for the next client that comes in my chair. So, for example, like I just went through a really horrible divorce, and my ex-husband wasn't really the nicest person to me. Even though I'm standing here being so, like, even my clients, they would say, you're so strong and you're so classy and you're so, but I'm crumbling inside. And once I started being more vulnerable in the things that I was going through as an individual and showing that I'm human too, I'm not just a celebrity hairstylist. I actually cringe at that word. I use it because you have to use it in your career or whatever the case is, but I treat all my clients as celebrities. Yeah. I don't differentiate from if they're paying $50, if they're paying thousands of dollars. Yeah. But once I started being more vulnerable, my clients were now able to be more vulnerable with me, right? So in the past year, even with COVID, especially when COVID happened, I found my clients being more vulnerable, calling me, sharing the things that they were going through in their day-to-day lives, what they're going through with their kids. I have two boys. I have a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. A lot of my clients were having kids after me, so they were more open to asking more vulnerable questions and asking me like what they should do, or so it's bigger than hair. It's bigger than hair. It's not, the hair is just the icing of the cake, but they come for way more. They come for, the love, the understanding, the appreciation. Sometimes I get angry with them and I'm like, you guys can't think about a hairstyle. Why do I have to think about everything? I'm having decision fatigue. You guys make me think of everything, but it's because I give them that space to be vulnerable. And I'm not a hairstylist that gossips and carries news or talks about other people's stuff or anything like that. So they confide in me a lot. So to answer your question, FD, my everyday going to work, even when my world is crumbling, I show up for the people who need me. To the point where I sometimes I am jealous of my own self. I wish somebody could show up for me the way I show up for people. So, and I think with that, that's my blessings, because I'm a blessing to, it's a blessing to be a blessing. So it's definitely bigger than here, because I could have gone on to do many other things. I'm self-funded. I do everything on my own. And I'm the only person living here in Canada now. All my family lives in New York. And I sometimes don't even know how I do it. But by the grace of God, I get up every day and I just show up for the people who need me the most. Right? So, yeah.
I saw a love sign from Ifti. I think she was pleased with that answer. And when I think about you're also a great storyteller as well, because all the people you meet in your life, everybody has a story and they come to the
everybody.
Yeah. Right? And I'm just thinking about someone who's going through cancer. They've they need that affirmation.
I have a couple of cancer clients who I've seen. Because, especially after COVID, you didn't see people for a long time. And I have this one client, I've been doing it for over 10 years, and we have a great relationship. And I know she's always struggling with her weight. So when I saw her after COVID, I was just like, wow, you lost, I was happy. I was so ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, girl, you lost so much weight. You look so good. And I looked at her face and she was not happy. And I just simmered right down. And I was just like, okay, Nakisha, this is not the time and place. And she was so happy to confide in me about her problems and her struggle, and showing me her hair and showing me her skin and all these type of things. And You know, oftentimes I pray with my clients in their chair. Sometimes I'm praying while I'm doing their hair. They don't even know I'm praying for them. You know, and I see a lot of my clients, and even though she didn't really have a lot of hair, she would still come every 2 weeks just for that, just for me, just being, you know, like happy to see her and wanting her to get better and stuff like that. And she bounced back, and now I'm just like, wow, girl, you're getting fat. Why are you putting on all this weight? You know, so, and they appreciate that, because at the end of the day, I see them. I see their struggle, you know, and it's so funny sometimes. These same clients, I'll be like, you know, you look so nice with a Halle Berry cut. This is before cancer. I'll be like, you look so good with a Halle Berry cut. We could do this, we could do that. And then cancer happened. And then they have a Halle Berry cut. And I'm like, you should have listened to me all these years. You should have been listening. So I always say we plan, but God has the ultimate say, and he has the last say, right? And sometimes I call it downloads. Sometimes I get downloads that tell me to say something or share something with another person. And oftentimes I have to pray for discernment, because there's a time and place for everything. But if the Spirit tells me to speak, I speak. When it's going to be misunderstood, you're going to be misunderstood anyways. So why not just speak? You know? So with that being said, it's just like, I see people with all walks of life. I see people who live, and I see people who die.
Yeah.
I see people who got married, who have kids, you know, and my job is on the calendar. I live my life on the calendar. So it's clockwork for me. So even though I might feel like I saw you 6 weeks ago, 3 months might pass by, but I still remember what you're going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, with that being said, it's just like, I have just learned being a hairstylist in my profession has really humbled me. Especially because I consider myself a master of texture. So that just shows you the diversity that walks into my shop. It just humbles me to know how small I am, but how great my job is, you know? So yeah, I'm pretty humbled.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's such a trust factor, right? It's just being in that space and surrendering yourself to the moment with Nakisha, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. And that speaks volumes, Nakisha, as you know, as you're the expert in that field. So. Prachi, did you want to jump in at all? Do you feel like your screen might cooperate here, and see if we could get something in, or even audio at this point?
Yeah, I'm going to keep my video off because it's glitchy when I turn it on.
Yes.
I think a lot of so when I was going through something which was drastic in my life, I really needed some change. And the first thing that I could think of was, I'm going to chop my hair off. I'm going to dye my hair real bright and all of that. So I think that Nakisha, in your role as a hairstylist as well, I think people who come to you for these changes in their hairstyles and looks, I think they are also releasing a lot of emotional energy. They're also releasing a lot of stress, attention, and they want new beginnings. It's like it's new hair, new me, you know?
Yep. Most definitely.
I like that. New hair, new me, did you say? I like that.
I do haircuts, but I can't say haircuts. I say dusting. And even though it's a dusting of 1/8 or 1/4 inch of hair, you should see how amazing clients feel. Yeah. So I definitely agree with Prachi that hair is definitely energy. I touch the crown of everybody's head. The most energy is in the, it escapes and comes from the crown of the head. So I have to be in good energy so that I can do my job. And I've cut my hair many times, and I truly believe that by cutting your hair, you ultimately change your energy and change your outlook, because we are oftentimes taught that hair, the beauty is in the hair. If you cut off your, in a lot of social, a lot of countries and their social dynamics are long hair, beautiful. You know, they compare hair to beauty. So when people do cut their hair, most of the times it's a drastic change, and it's them wanting a change. And most of the times when they do cut their hair, you do see the change.
Yeah. That's an emotional journey in itself.
If it's in itself, yes.
Wow. No, for sure. I know we have about maybe another 5 minutes before we wrap up our conversation, and I wanted to just kind of focus in on maybe some of the ages of the clients that you've dealt with. So you have young and old, as you said, all walks of life. And how different is that empowering a young person as opposed to a senior? Is there a difference?
Well, believe it or not, when I first started doing hair in Brooklyn, I only worked with kids.
Oh, okay.
So from a young age, I was actually a babysitter. At 15 years old, everybody brought their kids to my house.
Oh, neat.
So I babysat a lot of kids. And I think because I had that patience, I can deal with clients and deal with a lot of kids. But then over the years, my clients weren't having kids. So I was dealing with a lot of professional women, a lot of students, lawyers, psychologists, a lot of them who were in university. And I would say with most of my clients have been doing their hair for over 10 years, most of them. There's a change in every individual depending on where they're at in their lives. So my clients who were like in university, they were the hardest. They were miserable. They were anal. They wanted their hair a certain way. I had to do it a certain way. And then when they graduated, they were more relaxed. And, so I think a lot of my clients are pretty shocked when I am actually doing their children's hair or younger kids' hair, because I get it done in no time. They don't cry. It's to the point where they would be like, "Mom, can I go to see Miss Nakisha? I don't want nobody touching my hair but Miss Nakisha," And then they become young adults and stuff like that. So I have clients as young as 3 years old, as young as a year, like little haircuts and stuff. And they love me. And I actually love working with kids, because for me, I get so excited to see the future.
Yeah.
I always say, like, the older heads, we are all closer to the grave than anything else. But the younger people just gives me more purpose, and it makes me feel like, okay, I can continue doing this for the next 10 years or the next 20 years. The older clients, they kind of revert back into they're set in their ways. I have to use this shampoo, this conditioner, the same thing, even though their hair is changing. They don't want to believe that. They don't want to accept that. I can't say that they have gray hair. I have to say they have highlights, natural highlights. I have to use my words very carefully, because they're so little sensitive. And then I have a huge male clientele also, and we get into really hard conversations. We get into arguments sometimes, because I do believe in what I'm seeing in a day-to-day, in my day-to-day work in the community, that a lot of healing is happening, but a lot more needs to happen, so that we can have higher self-esteem, higher body images, all these kind of stuff. Yeah. And especially with my male clients, because I believe in traditions. I would consider myself a modern woman, but I still believe in traditions. And I believe that the men of all creeds, races have work to do, and they have healing to do. And I feel once the men start healing and showing up and walking in their truth, that we would be even further than we really are. Because women show up. Women talk about their problems. Women go for healing. Who's doing Reiki? Who's doing this? Who is doing that? Who's doing trauma recovery? All these types of things. So I am definitely seeing a change. I'm just definitely seeing a more of a consciousness and a more awakening, if I should say. And I will definitely try to contribute to that in any positive way. when I do see it, and that's just what it is.
Mhm.
You know, I buy gifts for my clients. I might remember my 5-year-old client screaming down the, the salon because her hair wasn't untangled from weeks ago by her mom, and I have to deal with it now. And I might go to the store and I might see something that reminds me of her, and I'll pick it up and I'll give it to them, you know, because at the end of the day, we're building characteristics, we're building values, we're building morals, and ultimately we're building self-esteem.
Mhm.
So it takes a community and it takes a village.
Yeah.
So we are a village, no matter what we look like. I have a heart, I have feelings, and I could totally um, relate to other people and when they're suffering and when they're happy and when they're sad, because I'm a human being also. So with that being said, that's what She Being Here stands for.
Mhm.
I've been here, I'm going to be here, and I'm not going anywhere.
Wow. Connection to the crown, connection to the soul.
Exactly. I like that actually, Lynn. I like
Right?
that. I might steal that.
Right? We'll do t-shirts.
Right?
I was just thinking that. Oh my gosh. I wonder, that sounds like your words of wisdom there. So usually we wrap up with words of wisdom, and I wondered if I can go to the other guests here today, and then we'll finalize your thoughts with words of wisdom.
Sure.
Moving forward. So what do you think? Ifte, would you like to jump in here? And what are your words of wisdom? We've been talking about self-esteem, and we could have gone down many roads, but I value the conversations we've had today just because it focused on the positive. And yes, we've all experienced negative in our lives in that regard, but what we kept seemed to be going back to was the positive. So I found that very uplifting and empowering, actually. So Ifte, any words of wisdom moving forward? For anybody that's listening or tuning in to Spotlight on Youth Matters, talking about self-esteem, and we're here because of Youth for Change Canada.
So, like from Nakisha's conversation,
Yes, or for
we don't.
yourself. Yes.
Yeah, so we don't have to be like find a box that belongs to us. We can create our own box, or it doesn't matter. You have to create a box. You have to be yourself. So forget about box. Be yourself. Just make your identity. Show them that okay, you exist, and that's the biggest achievement, I think.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Shukran. Thank you. And next is Plachi.
I think for me, we are constantly wanting to become something. And in that process, we sort of put ourselves down sometimes, not realizing who we really are. So I think I would personally remind myself that may I not forget that I already am in the process of finding myself, in the process of becoming someone who I think I should be. I think I already am. And that is where my self-esteem rises from.
I like that very much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. And not to dim someone's light, but to shine the light instead, right? Yeah. Wow. This is beautiful. I have to write these down. So Nakisha, wrapping up our time with you, it's been so valuable, and I just feel so uplifted. I feel your energy. I feel everyone's energy here today. Words of wisdom for our youth moving forward and being their authentic self.
So after what Prashi said, the first thing that popped in my head is to be, right? We are already here. Just be, you know, just at the end of the day, there's only one you, and it's okay to try different things. Like I'll try anything at least once, and then I'll be like, is it for me or is it not for me? Because that's the whole point of having a human experience, right? So with that being said, I just want to tell the youths that it's okay to question. I believe in questioning everything. Question everything, right? And when you question everything, then you can narrow it down to whether you like it or if it's for you or if it's not for you. And we all are born with gifts. You know, we all have certain things that we're really good at, and we should just focus on being good at that thing, because most of the times that thing is the carrier or drives us to our purpose, right? So continue walking in your truth, continue finding your authentic self, continue saying no to areas that you need to say no, and yes to areas that need to say yes. Everything is a lesson. My dad always says, if you didn't die, it's a lesson. So and once you ultimately love yourself, you ultimately will love everybody else, and you will just have the best life and the best time. I believe that, life does come with its challenges, but once you have faith within yourself and you trust yourself, and there's a time for everything. There's a time to be quiet. There's a time to get going. There's a time to reflect. There's a time for everything. So we live in a world where it's very fast paced. Instagram, social media, everything is telling you get the bag and go, go, go. But sometimes it's okay to stop. Sometimes it's okay to just do nothing. It's okay, right? So I have 2 boys myself, and I see how strong they are within self. And I applaud that, because I don't know what their purpose is. I don't know what any of you guys' purpose is, but I can surely tell you, once you are walking in your truth, it will find you.
Beautiful. Amazing. Thank you so much. Wow, what a session it's been. Thank you so much to you, Nakisha, and thank you for our guests for being here today as well, being a part of the conversation and raising the bar and talking about self-esteem and focusing on the positive and shining light on ourselves as well, right? So thank you to Youth for Change Canada for allowing us to be here once again. Follow us on social media and give us a like and tell your friends about us as well. Lots to get involved in. My name is Lynn McEntee. I've been your humble host. It's been amazing to spend time with our guest. If someone wanted to follow you on social media, although we're talking about the personal touch as well, but if they wanted to reach out to you, Nakisha, how would they do that?
They can reach out to me on my Instagram handle. It's shebeenhere, and you can email me at info@shebeenhere.com.
Amazing. All righty. Well, thank you to everyone for attending, for listening and tuning in, and we will see you next time for Spotlight on Youth Matters. Take care.
Good night.